All right, there it goes. And an error occurred. No. Try it again. All right, go live. That's never happened. There we go. You are live. All right, so we are live. Good afternoon, gentlemen, or good evening for you, Giuseppe. How are you?
Doing great.
Great. Fantastic. So for those of you joining, I have with me, as you can see on the screen, Giuseppe Gallo, the founder and owner of Italicus, right? Can I say founder and owner? That's correct. All right. And then also Jorge Raptis. I know him as the tequila and the agave man because we used to work together at Diageo. But now he's the educator for Southern Wine and Spirits in the Diageo portfolio in the Southwest.
Well, it's all over the place, but yes.
All over the place. And now he's got an entire portfolio of brands that he has to work with. So, gentlemen, a question I always start with is just telling me a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are today. So just a quick recap of like your entire career in 3 minutes. Jorge, I'll start with you.
Sounds good. Well, I started, a long time ago with the hospitality industry, restaurants, hotels. Then the first opportunity I had, I started with an agency working for Cruise Light, the brands. And then I wanted to really dive into the spirits. So I joined Republic National. From there, I became the brand ambassador for Don Julio. And I left that to join again another distributing company with Glazers. Went back to the ambassador position as the lead in the United States. And then I did the national educator for Latin spirits, mainly agave. And now I am the educator for the Southern Glazers, wherever Southern Glazers is managing the Diageo portfolio. That's what I cover to education in every category. So.
Man, that was really good.
That
was amazing. In a nutshell. And Jorge and I used to be brand ambassadors together at Diageo and work for MKTG back in the day. So we know each other for a long time. And Giuseppe, how about yourself?
I'm today the ambassador of the Made in Italy in the world. That's the way I like to define myself.
Very nice.
I'm Italian. I've been in the industry for over 20 years right now. As you can hear from my accent, very strongly Italian. I'm an Amaro and Vermouth lover, first of all. I went through the whole steps of the hospitality career, coffee bar, summer season, waiters, working in the restaurants, then going in Star Michelin restaurants, working in private clubs, beach bars, hotel bars. Then I went to work as a global brand ambassador for Martini Rossi Vermouths with the global marketing team at Bacardi in UK, London. Then I left there. I started my own consulting agency company called Ita Spirits, which is still working today on it. And in 2016, I launched my own brand, which is Italicus Rosolio di Bergamotto. And in 2019, I launched the first edition of the International Roma Bar Show in Italy. Altogether, a cocktail evangelist. I love cocktails. I love drinks.
And you love everything Italian.
As you can hear, hairstyle.
As you can hear, and that was fantastic. I look forward to when your show is back on to coming to Italy to the show. It's one I have not had the pleasure of being to, and just an excuse to come to Italy. It's always a good time. All right, so the one thing that I really admire about you gentlemen, I mean, we've all been in the industry for over 20 years, and the fact that you both have become known as an expert within your category. So for Jorge, it's been agave spirits, and for Giuseppe is vermouth, and now a Bergamot, the man who brought back the Bergamot liqueur. And, I know that becoming an expert is not easy, and this is something people really struggle with because they feel like they need to be an expert right away when they just start a brand ambassador role, or they just start to know and they feel like they need to know everything. And it takes time, as we all know. So I just wanted to share some of the steps you took to become an expert and what steps you kind of took to build your career to make people know that you are the expert within that category and build your personal brand as well as the brands that you worked for. So Jorge, I'll start with you.
So yeah, it's not easy. It's just I tell people there's no substitute for the experience, first-hand experience. So the first thing I think it's be passionate. Look for what really passions you, and look for that specific spirit category or that specific brand that you love, and dive into it. There's a lot of things that I consider or I used to consider hard for me because I'm from Mexico, being Hispanic, having an accent. I thought that it would be a challenge, but I actually took the opposite approach, and I embraced it. I was proud of my heritage. So that also helped me become, the expert in agave, because I didn't see all of my background as something that was going to hinder me, but the opposite. So that's what I dive into agave. I surround myself with people that were passionate as myself and that knew more than me as well. A lot of times we're afraid of asking or being with people that know more than us, but I think that helped me to get my education. And with those friends, I took a lot of trips, to Mexico and learning about other brands, about other products, because being an expert is not only knowing your brands, knowing your category, but knowing what is happening in the industry as a whole. So that first-hand experience, there's no substitute. And that's where you get all these experiences and turn them into, stories that you can tell and you can share. And always, when I think about how I became, the well-known or respected person in the industry, is because you do respect other people in the industry. You have to respect the competition. There are many products out there, and I think that having that respect will gain you the respect of others as well, and they will see you as a credible person when you're objective, not when you're just talking about one brand, but you're trying to elevate the whole category.
No, I think that's a good point. I just want to hold on because I was talking to Julio and Thomas Estes, which was a fantastic interview, and they were talking about it. And Julio, have you ever gone to his academy at his bar at Tommy's?
I have not.
He has an entire tequila academy, which is hilarious to hear about because he literally got, it started just for consumers, and now it's really intense. And in order for you to go to Mexico with him on a special trip, which would bring bartenders and other experts, you had to prove to him you could hold your liquor. So you had to get really, which is not responsible anymore. I mean, he used to do that. But he said the one thing that he respected was, when bartenders would come down with one brand, they would say, hey, do you mind if I stay an extra couple of days so I can, on my own dime, and go visit other distilleries so I can learn, about the category. And he said that a lot of bartenders from London he was taking down there. And he said that really impressed me a lot because it's not just about the brand. And it's something, if you're somebody who's in the industry, if a brand is paying for you to go down, I highly recommend. I used to do it with Diageo. I was like, I'm going to stay for another 4 or 5 days and go and so I can learn about the category as a whole. So it's a great point.
Yes, absolutely. And that's when you have these conversations with the people that are making it, and you learn more with these conversations. I always say that education is a two-way street. It's never one way. And I think being humble helps you. And that's why I love, Mexico and the spirit from Mexico, because we do create these relationships, these friendships that go beyond just, your brand that you're representing. But as a whole category, we're trying to elevate it. And being humble and learning from other people, it's always a great thing that is going to take you to wherever you wanna get.
No, fantastic. And I know I want to talk about building your personal brand, but I want to actually hear Giuseppe's story as well. And then we'll talk about some of the things that you guys both did to kind of build your reputation. So Giuseppe, why don't you tell me, for you becoming an expert within the category, what is your philosophy about becoming that person and becoming an expert?
Well, to me, it was some of the things that Jorge just shared, very similar. So you need to be, first of all, an ambassador of your own culture. So for me, it was natural. Being Italians, be able to travel around the world, spreading the word with Italianness, I would say. So with the made in Italy, it was very simple. I was also credible because, you know, with strong Italian accent, like, you know, you're coming from south of Italy, people, they see a natural connection with the homeland of the category, of the brand you're trying to talk about. But before that, I think the first couple of years for me was more, I started my position, I was 27 and a half years old. So I was very young to be a global brand ambassador, at least, you know, 12 years ago. And to me, it was more trying to get one line and one message for all my friends and colleagues that I was available, I was there to work with them. So, and you know, I'm lucky because I was in a position, I was part of that generation of bartenders in London, in UK, which is the golden generation, the generation of the Agostino Perrone, Eric Lawrence, Alex Cretina, you know, and then a few years later, Simone Caporali comes over, and like, so, like, I was already part of that family. So for me, it was just about, guys, I'm here. What can we do together? Those guys, they used to run the best bars in the world. They're still running the best bar in the world. So it was all about trying to find the best way I could help them, I could work with them, and organically, it will help my position, it will help my new role as a global ambassador. Then from there, one thing I understood immediately was that there was no education around vermouth. Mm-hmm. The reality is that 15 years ago, there was nobody trying to explain to people how vermouth is made. And I said, okay, maybe I need to do a little bit of homework here, due diligence. Let me go back to Italy. Let me dig down, like, you know, my regards to Magali Franco from Mexico. Yeah, Mama. And I was, again, in a very lucky position to be able to speak directly with the expert who they were making vermouth for over 20, 25, 30 years, wow, at the same level probably that Jorge had with the master distillery in Mexico, like, you know, so with the maestros. And I went there and I started to ask any sort of questions. And the main difference is the Italians, mainly the old-fashioned style or the conservative mentality, the main answer would be, no, we cannot tell you that. This is a secret.
Really?
As yes, okay, fine. But if it's a secret, the one you're using to make vermouth, which is 80% of the liquid in the bottle, what do you want me to talk about to bartenders? That's crucial for them to know what is the base to make vermouth, and so on and so forth. Slowly, knock by knock, day by day, like we got there. Okay, so and that was the way I tried to crack that. And actually, when Julio was saying, no, you, Eleni, were telling about Julio Bermeo bringing people to Mexico and visiting other distilleries, so it was great to build a category. I did try once to say to all Italian producers, what about we doing a tour where we can invite bartenders from America, from Germany, or from UK to visit 5, 6, 7, 8 distilleries. Italy is a very small country, so they can learn about Amaro, about Grappa, about Vermouth, about Prosecco. Impossible to make an agreement with them.
I can't imagine.
Impossible. And so at that one, I give up. But I said, like, definitely I can bring this one to the world. I can export it. So let's make sure that I'm prepared, I'm knowledgeable enough, and I can back what I'm saying and what I'm presenting. And I need to present the category as vermouth, as amaro, as aperitivi. I'm not just going around to talk about a single brand. However, into my training session, in my academy, of course, I will say thank you to the brand to pay salary to me, to pay the trip, to bring me to this city or to that country, to spread the love for vermouth.
Yeah, let's talk about that. We'll start with you about the Giuseppe, with the because that really launched your career when you started. You came to America and you started educating others about vermouth, and you had a concept. So just talk about, like, you know, you had this idea and like how it ended up you traveling around America and what you talked about.
I have two people to say huge thank you. The first one, it was Jacob Bryers. Jacob Bryers today is still the advocacy director for Bacardi Global Brands. And when he started the job, I was already in that role for a few years. And he came to some sessions I was doing in Europe, in Italy, in France, or in Spain. And he really liked the way I was engaging with bartenders. And said, we need to bring this model, this program, to US, because there is nobody who's doing the same kind of education in America, but vermouth, we need to build the category. And it was the first one, and definitely it did help me massively to try to sell within the company. And I'm sure Jorge knows what I'm talking about, and Lynn, you as well,
yes.
when you try to explain exactly why we should taste competitor brands.
Yes.
Like a brand director, they cannot understand why we need to taste another competitor's brand, because it doesn't exist one brand it's better than other. They're all different. You need to understand what the difference are, because the knowledge and the craft of a bartending is to know what the liquid, how it's made of, and how to mix the balance in a cocktail. It's not about spotting, this is good, that one is bad. This is just a personal opinion. It's all good out there. It's all about having the right knowledge. And this one is Jacob, and we put up a program called The Truth About Vermouth. And everybody loved the tagline. My English is very bad, but I came up with this line, The Truth About Vermouth, and everybody loved it. Like, why the truth about vermouth? Because like you can ask any questions you have about vermouth, about any brands you want. We're gonna have all the brands available. Let's try to analyze all of them. And I will never spend, and that's what I'm really proud of, in over like 7 or 8 years, no even one, let's say, negative word about another brand. It's all about education. It's all about the category. And the second one, it was a gentleman that you may know. It's called Philip Duff. And in 2013,
I like that, man.
We were in 2012. We were in Portland for the Portland Cocktail Week, one of my favorite shows in the world, by the way. And we're having a little breakfast. And I was sitting there with Philip, Dushan, and a few other people. And Philip looked at me, he's like, Giuseppe, I think we should do a nice Vermouth Academy, Vermouth Institute at the outside of the cocktail. Like, I like the ideas, like, how we can do it. That's how we started to work together to put that one in place for 2013. And it was a 3 days full room of people attending to the Vermouth Institute. And from there, I basically traveled. I was looking at the number. I've done in 5 years, 21 different countries, 76 different sessions, and 14 different cities just in US, of 2-hour session about the truth about vermouth, of an Italian with a funny accent, which half of what I was saying, people, they could not understand it because of my accent. Like, coming there and listening to me talking about vermouth. And literally, I went from Tokyo to Brazil, to Australia, to Portland, to London, and to Moscow. So literally, I've been traveling to work, educating bartenders about vermouth. And that's how people are starting to appreciate, I think, the fact that I was trying to educate them about the whole category and telling them what I knew about every single brand, and not just trying to sell them something.
No, which is a fantastic, it's such a fantastic approach. And I got to say, I give you, I'm always very thankful to you, because I remember being, at the bar, at Diageo and making cocktails, and people would see me pull the vermouth out of the fridge, and they'd be like, why do you have it in the fridge? And, just having to explain over and over again, like what vermouth was and why it needed to be kept in the fridge to stay fresh, or at least if it's in the well, it only has a certain amount of shelf life and you need to throw it out. So I was like, how long's your vermouth been in your well? They're like, we have no idea. I'm like, get rid of it now. And, tasting you on 2 styles. So I took the playbook from you and try to help it get moved to the next. try to help where I could. All those.
It was my hashtag.
Yeah.
It was my hashtag. Every time, like, keep your vermouth in the fridge. Keep your vermouth in the fridge.
In the fridge. I love it. Now, I know, Jorge, you created something very similar, which I know is not easy in Diageo, especially trying to convince them to talk about competitive brands. I always give the funny story when I used to make cocktails, but like Saint Germain when it came out, and they'd be like, we don't own Saint Germain. You can't use Saint Germain. I'm like, we don't have an elderflower liqueur. It's the only one that exists, and it's the bartender's ketchup. If I put it in a cocktail, it's going to sell. And they're like, I don't understand. I'm like, you don't have to. Just stop, pretend you don't see it, and just move on. So getting them to talk about other tequilas is quite incredible. They've moved on a long time since then, but yeah, back then it was hard. It was 2006.
Yeah, no, I think that that's one of the things that I've always been very grateful, for having the trust of Diageo, and they have given me the tools necessary to actually do this type of education that doesn't only talk about certain brands, but the whole category. And being I started with Yuan Morgan that was doing the blending lab with Johnny Walker. And we were talking about doing something that was unique to the agave category. So we put together this agave lab that, yes, was talking about Don Julio and other Diageo brands, but we were talking about other brands, about understanding the terroir. To give you an example, the highlands of Jalisco versus the valley of tequila, how different it is. And like Giuseppe said, it's not that it's better or worse, it's just different. And understanding this difference is only by really tasting them side by side. So that's what we started doing, including agave spirits in the mezcal category, and also other spirits that are not even agave, like Sotol. So tasting Raicilla, tasting Bacanora, side by side. And that really took a lab of its own. It became really an amazing lab that people were really interested in attending. I had some people even doing it for 3 times, traveling. I had one person traveling from Washington to Chicago to see it for the 3rd time. So you get these reactions that are very unique. And that's what happens when you really focus yourself into the education of people in the industry, and not just jamming, your brands down their throats. This is about understanding a category and being objective. And that's how you get your credibility as well. So I'm very thankful for Diageo for always, believing in this education and giving me the tools to do it.
Yeah, and also it changed how the ambassador program was run, right? Because that inspired other programs. Talk
Yes,
about that a little bit.
That inspired, this. We started with the blending lab with Johnny Walker, then it was the agave lab, then Diageo saw the opportunity to expand the education on other categories. So we started doing a vodka lab, a gin lab, there was a rum lab, a batching lab. So this really took a lab of its own, and really this education became some of the best in class in the industry. And that actually was the platform for this new program that we're on, that is called the Diageo Hospitality Partnership, that the focus is actually in education. So now we have, in every major city, we have a team that are 2 types of positions locally. One is the educator, and the other one is the advisor. So they saw the value in education, how really it helped the people in the industry to understand the categories and to understand how to use these products, and really to elevate all these categories. Because education, is never ending. The more you know, the more you realize you don't know that much.
Exactly. So, and going back to what we're talking about, you guys being experts, I mean, you're still always growing, right? You don't have to know everything at once, and you're constantly learning new things as you grow in your career, and about new categories, and because it's really hard to be an expert on everything. It's good to have an expertise on one thing. It does help, and then it will help you build everything else in your career. I was going to say, for Giuseppe, one of the biggest things is that you went from being a brand ambassador consultant to a brand owner. And while you were working for Bacardi, I know you kind of had a career path in your mind. Like, you decided on this, like what your goal was going to be at a certain point in your career, like, that you weren't going to be a brand ambassador forever, and what you wanted to do next. So, to become a brand owner, or, really you need to educate yourself. You need to understand how that works, strategy, budgets, marketing, all those things. Can you tell us like a little bit about your path? Like how you went from like your career path within Bacardi and what you did for yourself to get yourself to the next level.
I will tell you first of all, Aline, that my main goal was always trying.
That's right, Anthony.
Exactly. Just on this point, Anthony, just going back to the previous one, keep learning is always like an aim and objective. And then when you sit and you talk with a master distiller about agave spirits or about how vermouth is made, then you understand that you don't know nothing about the category. And it's so don't behave as the rest of the world, because there are people out there, they're very humble, they've been doing this for all their life, and they know 100 times more than us. Anyway, going back to your question, Eileen. For me, it was always very important. Like, I'm a very curious person. I'm coming from a very remote region of South Italy, or very small village, where the aim in the life of most of my friends, it was to find a secure job at the local post office, right? Like, I build a family, and just like that's it, I decide what to eat on Sunday for lunch. Like, for me, it was about learning different things, because everybody was telling me when I was young that I couldn't do it, because I had no education, because I was from a very poor region of Italy. Like, and I said, no, I'm gonna travel, I'm gonna do it myself. So when I find the way that I could learn more, and I could absorb different information, like, I literally like dive myself into it. I went to meetings when I was working on Bacardi, on brand positioning, on brand structure, or brand hierarchy, of repackaging, of new product development, that they were not part of my daily duty or my responsibility, not because I was asked to be in these meetings, but because I knew that just listening in there and taking notes, I will learn something new. And then go back home and try to study, like, and dig a little more and asking questions. Then with the years working with Bacardi, I actually find that developing new projects, new products, new brand, it was what I really love to do. And to come up with this very unusual idea with a different story, I tried to create almost a brand from a white piece of paper, like, when I write the whole story. It was so amazing to me. And one of my first projects with Martini Rossi was to launch a limited edition of Martini Gold with Dolce & Gabbana. So I see these two giant Italian brands together, try to come up with a product. For me, it was like a mind-blowing. Like, sitting in a room after 3 weeks, I was hired by the brand with Stefano Gabbana and Domenico Dolce, presenting them the liquid. Like, it's like, of course, like, it didn't work out. I had to, go back a few times. But, it was like, wow, I have these. They give me the key to drive a Ferrari. Let me learn how to drive before I'm going to put the first gear. That was my aim. And then from there, I remember I had done almost 8 years within Bacardi. I personally worked and launched 7 new products, brands, under the Bacardi or Martini brand. And at one point, I also said, like, why do I need to compromise on everything? It's a time now to do my own one, which it can sound crazy, it can mean nuts, but I will try to do it, and I will do it entirely on my own, as I wish a brand it should be with a made in Italy. And that's how I come up with Italicus Rosolio.
No, which is fantastic. And I think the fact that you took the initiative, and it's something, not everybody would think of, to say, hey, do you mind if I sit in on this meeting? I'd like to understand this a little bit more and to take notes. I'm assuming that's how it happened, right? You ask people, like, hey, can I be part of this? And, it is sometimes, it's a great point. It's like, sometimes it's like, if you have a goal, or even just, you might want to change someday, you might want to just move into something else, or just understand the business a little bit more. There's so many, I found that executives are so open to having deeper conversations, and so many of them, want to mentor people. Like, they have all this knowledge, they would love to share it with you. So it's like, can I just have a meeting with you, once a month to, like, pick your brain, or to get a better understanding of, like, how the industry works, and, how you got to where you are. And it is something I definitely didn't take enough advantage of. And now some of the people I used to work at Diageo are actually some of my mentors now. They've reached out to me, and they, and they're offering to help me build my business, which is, I'm so grateful for. Some of them are my clients, so which is also really kind of cool. It's like, you never know where life's going to go. And I was like, wow, I didn't know you respected me that much, but okay, this is great. It all works out. So it is something, it's taking that initiative. So it's a great point.
To me, I still remember this date. I was in a tour, in a visit in the US, and I always knew that the US route to market is different comparing to Europe. It's the 3-tier system that in Europe, most of us, we are completely ignorant about the 3-tier system, of what it is, why it's there, how it works. And I remember asking the brand executive, the VP brand executive for Martini Rossi in Miami, and Bacardi was like, you mind if I'm going to go around with your sales team in Miami for a couple of days? And the guy looked at me like, like, you're working for the marketing team. Why you want to go around with the salespeople? I was like, I want to learn how you sell the brand here, how you sell the product, what kind of conversation you have at the bar with those bartenders, with the beverage director, like, what's the language, what's the code there? Because I'm sure it's different comparing to Europe. And I'm sure there are things that here you can say or you cannot say that we cannot do in Europe. So I need to learn something new about the biggest spirits market in the world. And it turned out to be very useful a few years later.
Yeah, I think that's right. It definitely is something like taking the initiative. I think, and people, I always said about this industry, it's the one thing I've always loved. If you're willing to learn, there's somebody there to teach you. I think it's probably the one thing I've seen over and over again. There's somebody out there, if you just ask, like, hey, I would love to learn this, could you teach me this? Like, whatever. There's so many people out there who are just willing to share their knowledge with you. And most people don't keep it close to the vest. I'm sure like the Mysterios from, am I saying it correctly? Not the Mysterios, the Masters. Yes, thank you. In going to Mexico and sitting down with the distillers and having them teach you some of the knowledge that you had, they didn't have to share that with you.
Yes, that's one of the things that I always think when I started. When you start getting a knowledge or making friendship with people that know more than you, sometimes we are afraid of asking. We're afraid of looking like fools, and we don't want to put ourselves into that vulnerability. But that's one of the biggest mistakes that I made. Is that if I could tell everybody out there, is like, ask. There's no dumb question. There's no stupid question. Nobody was born knowing everything. So that's one of the biggest things that I think I learned throughout the years of not being afraid and going to Mexico and really talking to the people that make it. Because, with these conversations, when we're doing the Agave Lab, it's a two-way conversation, as I was telling you. It's a conversation. And you get asked questions that you don't know, and you have to be honest and say, I don't know. And that gives you the opportunity to go back to Mexico or wherever and talk to the experts that are making the product and say, what is exactly happening here? What is the answer? And sometimes you get even opposite answers. You don't get, a straight answer. So you need to understand, the whole context of who's telling you and research more. And the consensus, where most of the people are telling you, that's what you start, teaching. So it's always an ongoing conversation, an ongoing thing that never stops.
Yeah, and I also, one thing I've learned is a couple of brand ambassadors told me they have a direct contact with their master distillers. So they can they've been on stage and they're like, somebody asked them a question and they're like, I don't know the answer to that, but give me a minute. Let me text the master distiller. And they were like, you can text the master distiller. Like Dave Mitten told me this from Lot 40 and oh my God, who I was talking to last week? They were like, yeah, I just texted. And they were like, whoa, you got the answer back. Because you always get that asshole, right? That always asks you things that are like, who would really know the answer to? And it's like really technical. And they don't even know the answer. They're just being a smart ass and they want to know. And sometimes you really just want to be able to say, yeah, give me a second.
Yeah.
And you don't know. You can always say, I don't know. It's like, you know what? It's just something I just don't know, but I will gladly find it out. But it's hard. It is sometimes hard, but asking the right questions, being humble.
Being humble, a big one. Yeah.
Elaine, this very specific example. I was actually with Philip in Buenos Aires for Tales on Tour 2014 because the Vermouth Institute at Tales of the Cocktail was such a success that we were asked to go to Buenos Aires. So we go there. And one of the questions coming from the audience was like, but the vermouth made here in Argentina or in South America, it's imported from Europe. And obviously the answer is no, it's made there locally because it just would be too expensive to make it in Europe and ship to Latin America. But so what kind of wine do you use? Where it's coming from? It's different. And of course I didn't know, I was not prepared how technically it's made the vermouth in South America. I thought it was very similar. And actually, I'm jumping on a backstage, I'm giving a call to the master blender of Martini Rossi. He's giving literally in 3 minutes speech, bam, 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 all the information I needed. I'm working out, it's like, okay, because I got a text from the master blender. That's the wine, that's the region, that's what it is. By the way, Montevideo in Uruguay is the largest Piemontese population outside of Italy, because all the people from that region that were migrating here 100 years ago, on top of it. So now we understand why it's so popular, Fernet and Vermouth and so on and so forth in Argentina and South America. Right? And everybody like it just blew up. It's like, how possible? It's like, that's
hands off. That's fantastic.
The great advance you have when you can speak directly with your master distiller.
You really, I think it's every brand ambassador should have direct access to their masters if their master distiller actually exists. Okay, so now we're going to talk about like more of the technical stuff, like managing people or being managed, right? So, being managed is managing others and being a mentor to others, brand ambassadors, any people. Like when it's people and people, it's not just technical, it's emotions, and you have to actually work with them, and every single person is different. And it's complicated, right? So I want to go over like, what do you think, you both have been managed by other people, right? And you still have a manager there. It's also like, so what are some of the fundamentals of a good manager when it comes to brand ambassadors? Because the brand ambassador role is so unique, and it's one that you're in the field most of the time. You don't even see your manager. So is there like some ground rules that you believe like most managers that you've seen, like this is the best practice that you believe is like a way to manage your brand ambassadors? Giuseppe, I'll actually start with you, and Jorge next. Thank you.
The first things I will do, I had many line managers, right? So I had all different experiences, and all of them, they were coming with a different background. The first thing I will definitely say, do not take the bartender's DNA out of your brand ambassador, okay? That one always need to live within the brand ambassador. Mm-hmm. The brand ambassador, you need to feel part of the bartender's community. It cannot be an identity completely detached from the bar industry. You need to be within the bar industry, not outside the bar industry. You're part of that family. You respect them, you live with them, you work with them. That's the first rule. Definitely. Don't try to make them a mini brand manager, a mini salespeople. They are brand ambassador. They do advocacy. It's a different game. They need to speak the same language as bartenders. That's the first one. Then, obviously, I know that there are lots of challenges that are coming with the micromanagement. There is a lots of executives that do not trust brand ambassador. They think the brand ambassador is just like the last new talented bartenders who's going to go around and spend some money. It's not that. Of course, they need to understand the rules of the company. They need to respect, and they need to understand there is not a magic trees where you can go and pick dollars and just pay for the bills. Like that one, they need to be generated by sales and by some other stuff, by the business. Like you need to explain, but it's a process.
Yes.
Most of the bartenders, most of their life, they're working with the hands. At some point, the hands, they got to relax, and they need to start to work more with the brain. It's not an automatic switch. It takes some time to get there. So you need to drive them. You need to guide and explain step by step. And not everybody's that quick. And in the end, the thing that I definitely will recommend everybody, you need to empower your brand ambassador. Yes. Too many times I've seen brand ambassador which they even scared to give an answer. Brand ambassador, they sitting at the bar. One of the first rules that I'm always giving to all our ambassadors is you got to sit at the bar. You don't sitting at a table. You always sit at the bar because you need to talk with the bartenders. You need to watch what they're doing. You need to understand which one is the spirits, the bottles they're working mostly. And then you're going to start to understand. Don't bother them. Don't disturb them. Be nice. Be respectful. Leave the tips. But like you sit at the bar. And when you sit at the bar and the bartender is asking you questions, the brand ambassador, you need to be empowered to give an answer, to make a decision, to make a call. I see a lot of ambassadors that they're just like, they don't even know what to answer. They answer a corporate line, which they've been brainwashed for 6 months. Why? Like, they're not signing off $1 billion advertising campaign. They're maybe going to sign off $100 bill, no more than that.
Right.
So empower them to make decisions. Do not micromanage them, and make sure they buy into your vision so they can really spread your brand cradle.
Yeah, there is nothing more frustrating, I know, for bar owners on your point about the empowerment, because And it's also frustrating for a brand ambassador. It's like suddenly somebody wants you to sponsor something. It's really cool. You know, it's the right fit for the brand. You know, it's everything the brand stands for. And you're like, I'm going to have to get back to you. And it goes, you know, and you send the email and the brand manager like doesn't respond. And then you have to wait. And the person's like, hey, the event's happening in 2 weeks. And it's like, you know, it's $500, and it's like, all right, that's a brand spend. Like, I know I can spend it. I have the budget for it, but is it legal? And then it has to go to the legal department, and then it has to do. It's like there's got to be some guidelines, but like, here's what's legal, who's not legal. Like, just say yes. Anything under this amount of money, you can just say yes to. You know, and I know it's hard because under big corporations, but it is frustrating for probably the bar as well to not be able to say yes. And to have that, and for the brand ambassador, because you feel stupid. Yeah, you don't feel in charge.
I'm going back to my first, you know, I remember when we started today, is like, you know, you need to make sure that you can talk with your colleagues and with your friends and tell them, how can we work together? How we can cooperate together? So that's very important. Like, by the way, my regards to Dean, my regards to Natasha, we can see a lot of friends. Those are real ambassadors, not me. Those are real ambassadors. Support them.
Yeah, and you know, just to build on what Giuseppe said, exactly. You know, you need to set them up for success, for them to understand the vision of what is the responsibilities, like keys, you know, expectations. What are the needs? What exactly you are supposed to do? So to me, it's always about like from the start an onboarding education, where you can give them the tools necessary so they can be successful. What are the guidelines? What exactly you're supposed to do? What you're not supposed to do? So communication is key here. And I think that you have to lead by example. You have to tell them, you know, this is what I have done that has taken me here. A lot of times we share presentations, we share, you know, information, but you need to make it relatable, you know, with examples of everyday life. And also managing the environment. Sometimes, you know, every single company has a very different environment. And you need to create your own environment with your team. I think that's very important to build trust. If they don't trust you, they're never going to come and ask you for things like you were saying, you know, there's an event and they want this. You need to be able to tell the truth. This is what's going to cost. This is what are the things that I need, you know, to make a successful event or whatever it is. And that is the only way that you're going to get the real answers. And I think, you know, when you're managing teams, it's important for them to know that you have their backs. You are there to support them. So one of the things that I've seen always is like people try to manage it and this is what you're supposed to do, but they don't make you feel part of the team, or that you are, you know, they give you air cover. They're going to be there for you. If you make a mistake, we're going to learn from it. Don't worry about it, you know? So empowering the team is important, but with that understanding that you're going to be standing there no matter what. Of course, well, no matter what is saying, there's certain things that you should not be doing, but definitely having that trust, feeling that they are there for you, it's very important.
I think it's so funny laying out for a brand ambassador, you know, here's like the top, like, because so many people worry about getting fired. I have this conversation with brand ambassadors all the time, right? Because they're out there, you have a random job, like you don't see your manager very often. And sometimes you're not sure if you're always doing everything the right way because you don't hear from them for like weeks at a time and you're kind of doing your job. And you know, it's like, tell them here's the things that would get you fired. Like, boom, boom, boom. Like, you know, whatever it may be, it's like, you know, this is, if you put this on social media, that's going to get you fired if you do this. Because so many brand ambassadors have this fear. And they're like, and I've had this conversation. I'm like, you know how hard it is to get fired? It's really hard. There are definitely certain things that are going to get you fired. But most things, they spent a lot of time hiring you and investing in you and like spending a lot of money on you. It's going to take a lot. They don't want to fire you. They want to actually keep you on board. But there are certain things, like if we see, you know, lack of performance, whatever it may be, like, but being really specific, I think might help a lot of people not be in the gray zone because I think people worry about that.
That's true. Like in my experience, there's two big things that, you know, can get you fired. The two big things are budgets, like manage your budget and don't do anything stupid when you're out, you know, working or in a trip. You know, that it happens a lot that you go for a trip, somewhere with the team and you forget that you're still working and you do something stupid or overconsume, and those are the two big ones. The rest is manageable.
Don't go to a strip joint and use your expense account, like and to buy, a couple $1,000 in lap dances. I've seen that happen. So yeah. I'm sure we all have stories of things people have done. Go ahead,
you mean don't go to Portland, basically?
Yeah. But I think Portland, that's where all the good bars are. So I think you have to do that. It's important to remember that often rent as much as they. And it's hard for them too. Yeah, it is true. That's a great point, Dean. A lot of people are good at marketing and not very good at managing people because they have not been trained. It's the one training that most people never get. It's like you just have to figure it out. You and Morgan told me that. He's like, yes, only had a team of like 25 people. His boss, he's like, I've never managed anybody. He's like, so you had to figure it out. Don't go to Portland.
Look at him.
Yeah, it's been a while, but I think that's a really good point, Dean. And you do have to work with them. But I think also giving, on the last point of this, is giving feedback. Also giving positive feedback, working with them, recognizing when they've done things, making sure the company recognizes when the company's had a big success, and the brand ambassador was part of a program that really succeeded, like part of an advertising campaign, but they were their part, like they executed it. Their programs that was like helping to support the marketing campaign, and a lot of times marketing, they forget and they discount the brand ambassador's role in whatever they were doing. I've seen that done a lot actually, but they just don't get the credit. So making sure they get all the credit that is due. And also as a brand ambassador, you have to make sure you get your credit by telling everybody all the good stuff you're working on. I think
that's one of the things that happens a lot. We are so into the work every day that we forget to put something together to share our wins. And that happens a lot.
Yeah, you really got to share your wins and let people know what you're working on, or else people they forget, right? It's like, especially when you're out in the field, I always tell people two things so nobody starts to wonder what you're doing. Do your expenses, get them in on time, send your reports in on time. And I said, just send here's our successes of the week and CC everybody, whether they want your report or not. So they are like, oh, look what our brand ambassadors are doing. It will help your career so much. And it's free. You just have to take the time to do it. All right. So next question. All right. So let's talk a little bit about, sorry, I'm going to read my questionnaire because I forgot the actual job. So being a brand ambassador, part of the job, because Giuseppe, you and I talked about it. I'm sure, Jorge, you have some thoughts on this because, being a brand ambassador obviously takes some finesse when you're dealing with buyers at the bar and how you present your brand and not just jamming it down your throat. So what are some things you would recommend for how a brand ambassador actually works for the buyer and speaks with them the first time, when they're approaching them? Any thoughts? Giuseppe, I'll start with you. We talked a little bit about this yesterday.
Absolutely. Mainly when it's the first time you're working in one bar or a bar or an account for the first time, completely forget about trying to sell something. Just go there and experience the bar, have a drink, make sure that when you leave, they know who you are. At the end, not when you arrive. Don't arrive with your business card from your pocket right away. You know who I am. Nobody cares who you are, okay? Be a customer. Enjoy the bar. Enjoy the vibe. Enjoy the drinks. Have another round. Offer to your friend. Leave some tips. And by the way, at the end, it's like, I would love to come back and have a little chat with you if it's possible. Don't try to sell anything. As I said, you part of that community. Bartenders, brand ambassador, brand owners, salespeople, they're part of the same community, which is the bar community. You need to make sure that you respect them. They're starting to know you, that you breaking the ice with them, and then from there you can have a little bit more honest, professional, a straightforward conversation. Absolutely. Don't go there with your sales hat, yes, let's try to sell something now. No. You need to go there to make sure you know the bartenders by name next time you're going to work in this bar. And you're going to say, hey, Jorge, hey, Aline, how are you doing tonight? What is your special cocktail tonight? That should be your goal for the next time you're going to work in this bar. and things they're gonna work out. I'm
Yes.
sure, because bartenders, they want to work with the brands. They want to help and support from the ambassadors. But they do not want this arrogance. They don't want this pushing strategy, trying to sell you something. Calm down, relax. Step by step, we're going to get there. We are not here for the 100 meters run. We are here for the Olympic marathons. It's all about making it at the end. Correct, Jorge?
Exactly. Just to echo some of the things that you were saying, I think that because of the culture, the Italian culture, I'm half Mexican, half Greek, and it's the same. It's the hospitality. You need to create these relationships, before you even step into the business in Mexico. You sit down for a business lunch, and you have your meal. You talk about sports and politics. Anything you like, and then after you start talking about business. And I think that approach, I learned it from very early in my career, and that's how you really become partners with these buyers, with these managers and owners. They understand who you are, you understand who they are, what are their needs, and try to partner up so that you can have win-win situations. And
Yes.
I think that's the key here: communication, knowing what they lack, what they're struggling with, what do they need, or the staff, what they need. If you don't understand their business, you're never going to be able to help them. And you can only understand it if you have these conversations and you make it more into a personal relationship.
No, absolutely. You have to have, and you guys still hear me because one of my earbuds just died.
We can hear.
Yes, we
okay,
can.
okay, good. As it is a great point. It's like, because sometimes if you come working with, people and to Dean's point, yes, you're right, Dean, brand managers don't get a lot of love. And they probably should get a marketing one, because some of them are definitely much better than other ones. So I definitely worked some good ones and some bad ones, and you're right. So good point. I was gonna say, and also when you're in that bar, like getting to know that relationship, but also you need to, and Giuseppe, we talked about this, it's also having a goal while you're in there. So every time you visit, it could be just getting to know the bartenders' names and having that conversation, like getting to know them a little bit more. It could be like while you're sitting at the bar, acknowledging like what the competitive brands are and how they're using them. So you can start to understand their bar program a little bit more and where your brand can work for them. Like, why your brand is going to be a benefit for them to have behind the bar. Sometimes you find out actually it probably might not work there at all. Sometimes if there are bars, like I've walked in, I'm like, yep, nope. Like 4 of my brands I have a whole are not going to work here, but this one will, and this is why I know. So it's going to be a win-win, as you said, Jorge. It's going to be a win-win. And the last point to just have about building a relationship, absolutely, don't shove your brand down. I know that was an early mistake I made because I was like so anxious to like try to sell, especially on work with. It's like you don't have a lot of time, and don't go on a Friday night when it's 3 deep at the bar, because brand ambassadors still do this, and I can't believe it. I hear it all the time. Or a Thursday night, go on Mondays and Tuesdays or Wednesdays when it's quiet. Right now, obviously, it's a little bit different. People will be just happy to see you, but still, like a lesson to know. But all really, really great points. So I also want to talk about, one of the other parts about being a brand ambassador is obviously being a storyteller and a great presenter. It is a skill set that maybe you don't have always when you come on. It's something after you practice it a lot, you get better at it. But I just want to talk, like, what are some of the things that, both of you guys are really great presenters. I've had the pleasure of seeing you present many times. What do you think makes a great presenter, and how do people get to that level? Either one. Giuseppe, go ahead.
I go?
Yeah.
It's okay. It's although bartenders, they are natural and usually brand ambassador, they coming from the bartenders world, natural performances, I will say. Public speaking, presenting in front of a crowd of 100 people, 1,000 people is a different game.
Yes.
With a mic, with a speech, with a presentation, with a time frame, with a clock, like with a TV screen, it's a completely different game. Now, in order to be able to do that, you need to study. You need to invest in yourself. I personally always going to be thankful to the company Bacardi that they spend thousands of dollars to teach me public speaking, how to pronounce my name correctly for people who are not Italians, how to make sure people they will understand my speech, how to answer a question, how to do an interview, like, how to get the message across, how to catch the attention of the public as well. And I will give you like a very small example that I'm sure both of you already know. One way to keep the attention high in a 1 hour seminar, at some point somebody's going to fall asleep anyway. So the only way to keep their attention high is to ask them questions. So rather than them asking questions to you that you're presenting, you asking questions to them. And all of them, even if it's 1,000 people, they feel on the spot. They're starting to look around, to hide their face, and try to, like, my friend maybe want to answer. That's one just over the small tip they're giving to you, those public speaking. I personally done sessions and courses with a former actor, theater actor, presenter, journalist to learn how to do those kind of presentations. You need to train yourself. One thing I understood, you can't be short with your breath. You need to go for a run, because 1 hour presenting a seminar, you need to have the breath and the power to present and to speak for 60 minutes. That means you got to go for a run in the morning.
I never
you
went
need to
for
be
a run,
run.
but I hear you.
But you can't. You see the difference when, like, you had a big night out and then you need to present in the morning. That, like, you're preparing yourself. Be very concentrated, focus, like sober at presenting, versus having a big night out and then show up at presenting. And I will repeat the Bible of the brand ambassador rules, I would say. They're coming from the greatest Simon Ford. In the Bartenders movie, at one point he said, bartenders are like a rock star. They want to show up and sing the song without learning how to play instrument. Well, to be a brand ambassador, you need to learn how to play guitar and bass and all the instruments before you're going to be able to sing.
Yes.
And that's probably more than 50% of what you need. Then you need to have this kind of personality, which is a person for the people, a people person, right? Like you need to love to be with the people around you. You need to interact with them, and you need to be able to connect even mentally with them when you present, and not just physically with the presentation or with the tasting. They need to follow you. They need to follow your vision of what you're trying to explain. And that one is a very unique skills that very few ambassadors really can get this message across. And you see the difference between the one who can engage and click with the audience and the one who just repeating his speech once again, who learn it, he knows it very well, by just repeat it.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Those are all great points. Go ahead, Jorge.
And the same, I think every time I do a presentation, it's going to be a unique scenario. So you need to understand who's your audience. That's the first thing. Who's your audience? If it's going to be, a tequila dinner where everybody already had a couple of drinks, it's going to be very different than a seminar. So understanding your audience is going to help you tailor what you're going to be talking about, how you're going to be actually engaging with the audience. So as Giuseppe was saying, questions are great. They always keep them in their toes. And having a two-way conversation, like I hate just going somewhere and just talking. No, this is a conversation. This is always, trying to inspire others as well, and getting questions that you have never been asked before. And through storytelling, we were talking about, through your everyday experiences or unique experience that you have had in the past, bring them to life. I think that's the key. Be relatable and be passionate. Yes. I mean, whatever you do, you speak about. If you're not passionate about whatever you're going to be speaking out, people are going to notice and they're not going to follow. People notice that. You can teach somebody a lot about chemistry and the engineers and the fermentation, distillation, but if you don't make it relatable, you don't make it fun, if you don't make it interesting, and they can see that you hate that or you're not passionate about it, they're going to be disengaged. So that's the key thing. Be passionate.
No, being passionate really does. I mean, I was actually talking to Daniel Jones, who's the global brand ambassador for Angostura rum, and and also Ian Burrell, they're probably two of the most engaging speakers. I mean, there's a lot of engaging, like they are amazing, and they're just really passionate about the topic you're talking about. It just like comes off of them in so much, and it's just like you want to be engaged, and they're they and also just looking friendly and happy, and like people want to like you because you look happy. You're glad to be there having that conversation with them, which is I think is really important. And I will actually note my husband. He does actually. My husband makes very good presentations, and the one thing he does well is he just uses pictures, right? He doesn't use a lot of text. So when he makes a PowerPoint presentation, it's a lot of pictures. It's also because he's able to memorize everything in his head and he knows it inside and out. But I've been reading, so it's very frustrating if you go back to go reference the slides because it has nothing on it besides a giant picture. You're like, you have to take notes. But it's being able to tell that story. And I actually looked it up. I was looking about what makes the it factor, right? Why do people have it and some people don't? And watching TED Talks is a great way, to understand people give great presentations. And they work with people. And the reason I brought up the Phillips presentations, because that's what they encourage people to do, which is just have lots of, just pictures, very few words, lots of pictures. And they work with their presenters for 6 months to make sure they memorize, but not only memorize their presentation, it becomes part of who they are. Because you can tell when somebody just memorizes something. I know when I'm presenting something that is something I'm not that comfortable with, it doesn't come off. But when I know something inside and out and I feel it, like I'm engaging. But if you just get up there, as Giuseppe said, like you've been out the night before and you're just rocking and like you have to present, it shows. It's like you're just saying the words on the page and people fall asleep. So you have to really kind of bring it all. And I don't know about the running beforehand, but I definitely I do these voice exercises and, and I practice my presentation in front of the mirror. Like I do my presentation first to kind of see how my body language is and how I'm engaging. It really does kind of help to kind of practice it that way. At least that's something that I do. Do you practice before?
Well, depends. If it's a topic that I'm not very comfortable, yes, definitely. With agave spirits, I'm more comfortable, so it's more natural. Whatever it comes, I'm usually ready. But one of the things that you were saying is that keep it simple. Sometimes people retention is going to be very limited. They're going to remember the main 3 key things, but they will always remember how you made them feel, and that's the key.
Yeah. How you made them feel is really, really important. All right, we have time, or a little bit of time for a few more. And I think my other...
I think we lost you for a second.
I think we lost you. Not yet. Nope.
Just go live, Eileen. Go live.
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Now,
Can you hear me? Off the computer?
Yes.
You can hear me. I can't hear you. But that's all right. So I really can't hear you. Let's see. Sorry, guys. I'm going to just try to, because there's no microphone. All right. So sorry for you guys can hear me. All right. So I'm going to hope whatever you're saying is the right thing. So I'm going to ask the right questions. All right. So while I get my new earbuds, you guys can entertain the audience. All right. So let's also talk about, how do you recommend that a bar owner works with a brand ambassador? Because this is something that bar owners have asked me, like, how do I get the most out of the relationship? Giuseppe, I'll start with you while I get my earbud.
Absolutely.
Talk amongst yourselves, but answer the question because there are people answering.
It's very important that I would say you always respect the partnership and the friendship that you have with the bar owners and with the bartenders, and also you keep it professional. You keep it as a business. Obviously, you want to have a special eye for your friends and for your partners, and make sure that you support them as much as you can, but keep it professionally. Understand that the brand is not just you or what you want to do or what you can do with this bar. There are some priority for the brand and there are some priority for the bar. You need to make sure that as any good bartenders, you do the right mix. You take the best priority from the bar, the one that you have from the brand, and you try to blend them together. It must be always a compromise. It's not just the bar that need to adapt themselves to the brand, or the brand to the bar. That's what I would say.
Right over there.
And while Eileen tries to sort it out, the speakers all good, Eileen? We can hear you.
And then,
Jorge, you want to go with this question?
She cannot hear you, Seth, but yeah, exactly. It's like we were talking about. It's the same thing about the win-win situation.
That one?
Yeah.
Know the managers. These are people that right now, more than ever, they have been struggling, with this pandemic, and they've been doing the job of 2 to 3 people.
Yeah.
So think of them. How can you alleviate some of the job, some of the responsibilities that they have? Make sure that you do wherever you can to help them. Maybe it's a training to their staff. Maybe take them, out for lunch. Such a simple thing. Just take them out to lunch, to relax, to breathe, to take, a nice meal. Sometimes it really helps with the stress that they have right now. So basic human things are gonna make the difference. It's about the little details. That's what I always think about, when I go to an account. It's like, this is an array of people. Doesn't matter if it's a small mom and pop's bar or it's a huge corporation. It's the same. It's our people like you and me that I have, good days, bad days, stressful days, and more than anything right now, I think it's talking to them and make them feel that they matter. What they do makes a difference.
And I would say, Jorge,
go ahead. I'm back.
Are you back, Eileen? You back?
I am back. I've got my earbuds back.
No, just to close on this one with Jorge, I think at the end, whatever project, whatever program you want to roll out in this venue, in this location, with the bar and with the bartenders, you need to work from both sides. You need to be in the both interest of the brand and of the bar business to work out. It's not just one or another. We're working together. That's why, for me, it's very important. Never forget that we are part of the same community. Take it easy, and there is nothing that a nice pizza lunch can sort it out. Correct, Jorge?
Correct.
No, I think it's so true. And also, I didn't hear all the points, but I was going to say the one thing that I've told some brand ambassadors is like, sometimes you're going to meet the bar owner or the buyer who's just not that person. They're never going to be your partner. They don't know how to have that partnership with and with you, and sometimes you have to move on. It's like it's like you just have to move on. It's like, this is never going to be a win-win. You're going to be replaced as soon as you spend money there, and then somebody else comes in and spends more money. They're going to just take you out, and that's not somebody you can build a relationship with. And you just have to cut your losses and be like, and I've seen that pressure, and I'm sure all of you have, where your marketing person or somebody's like, we want to be in this account, we have to be in this account, this is the best account, and you're like, okay, I'm letting you know, like, I've done all the things you're supposed to do, but this is not a person that we should work with. It's just, it might be a great bar, but right now it's not the right fit, and probably in 6 months from now, that person's not going to be here anymore because they're not a good, because usually people like that don't last very long in their position. Sometimes they do, but a lot of times they don't. Give me a year and that person, there's probably somebody else I can work with. You have to be patient.
Absolutely. We run into that a lot. And think every time I go into an account, I think, how am I going to tell them what I do? How can I help them? And for them to understand that it's not a 1 week, 1 month thing. This is a marathon, like we were talking about. This is a long year commitment of supporting in different ways and bringing value to the account. What is value? That's the thing. Find out what is of value to them, because value is different to each one of us and every account. So value, if you find what is valuable to them, you are able to help them. That's going to become, your starting point to have a relationship that is a whole 365, day of the year, making sure that you're supporting them.
No,
and that's what the relationship starts. Yeah.
Absolutely. I have to ask, Anthony put up here your rule of 3. What is your rule of 3? I think he said to me yesterday, and I can't remember what it was.
We have in the Diageo hospitality partnership with Gregor Katanak, the rule of 3. That keep it simple. Always try to organize whatever you're going to be speaking about, and of course have your main objective, your introduction, your 3 points, And in these 3 points, just the basic 3 points in each of them, and then a conclusion. If you have that, at least you have, a guide to really get you to speak about what's important instead of just losing yourself into, many different topics.
I think that's a good rule. I like that. I think that the rule of threes. And Anthony had something else to say. When the manager and I both know you are the right fit, but you cannot compete with another portfolio that's paying to play. That's a hard one. Any thoughts on that, gentlemen?
Paying to play, it's always going to be part of this industry. And, that's that's a short-term relationship. That's a very short-sighted relationship. Once they think that you're just there to pay them, you're a credit card basically, and you already lost the respect of the account. You need to
he's saying the manager and the buyer both know that you are the right person. They want to work with you, but there is somebody else that they are paying more money. And I get it. It's a business decision sometimes. Yeah.
It's going to happen. You have to deal with it. It's going to happen. It's a reality of our industry. And there's nothing that you can do if they decide to go that route. But that's why you also have the power to partner up with the right accounts, with the right people that understand what you're bringing of value. So it's both ways.
Giuseppe?
If I may on this side, Jorge, because in Europe we don't have the 3-tier system, so paying to play is actually the normal daily duty. You got salespeople, brand ambassador, go in there, making deals with listing fee. You pay, you are in my cocktail menu, in my beverage program, you don't pay, you out. So here's the normality. There is nothing wrong with that, okay? So how can you compete if you're a small brand, the small kid on a block versus the giant? Well, I've been in this situation for a few years with Italicus, and there's nothing wrong with that. Actually, if you're smart, there is different way you can work, and you can make your brand very successful. Just be creative. And going back to the point that Jorge just said, which is value. You need to bring value to this account. What the value is, you're gonna offer them something that who's paying to play cannot do it. Be creative. So one of my always intro questions to the account, it's not about the brand today. It's about how, as a brand, we can work around your business. We can support your business. That's the value. Yeah. If you are a big corporation paying to play, you also want to implement certain rules or certain drink strategy or certain brand assets because you're paying to play. If you're not, you can be much more creative. So as you said, Jorge, bring value to the account. You can work around. And I've seen so many of those cases. Never limit it yourself. Where is an obstacle, where is a challenge, there is always a solution. It's all about how smart you're going to be and find that.
Yeah, I mean, I experienced this yesterday. I was actually working with the brand Capali, and I was presenting to an account, and and I know they're in bed with a couple of the big companies, and we're a very tiny place, and I said, okay, we know the accountant and I know each other for a long time. I said, all right, so would you bring in a couple of bottles so I can come in here and spend some money, right? I said, I know I can't compete with them, but I said, but I will provide your entire team. I was like, you guys do a lot of, rum, and you do, I was like, has anybody done education for your entire team about rum, the rum category, right? To sit down with them and do an education and all that stuff. It's like, would that be helpful to them? So they actually understand what's on their back bar and what each one brings to the table. And they're like, no, nobody's ever done that. I'm like, we could do that. I was like, we can get them out of the account. We could do something nice for them. So it's like finding that creative. Sometimes I've had an account just say to me, can you just take my team out for an outing? And I took them out for a walk on the High Line. Literally, they've never been to the High Line. I was like, let's go to the High Line. I'm going to take them out for the day. We're going to go for lunch. It was like, we didn't have a lot of budget. I was like, I'm taking them out for pizza, and I'm taking them on a tour of the High Line. And we just all got out, and I got them coffees, and we went on the High Line, and we walked the entire High Line. And it was like a team outing for them. They were like, this was great. This is a great team building. I mean, other people spend tens of thousands of dollars. I probably spent $500, and I took them out. So it's like finding that creative, what is those small things that might work that are not, I can't compete, but this is where I can compete, and this is what I can bring to the table. So it is about being creative.
There's nothing that a slice of pizza can sort it out, correct, Jorge?
Absolutely.
Hey, all right. So, all right, we've already kind of talked about some of the things, and we're getting to the end. We're going to wrap it up shortly because we've been on for an hour and 15, but it's been so amazing. I think you guys have answered so many great questions and helped a lot of people. Let's talk about, if you want to ask, like, 2 things, if you could not repeat again in your career that might help somebody else, like 2 mistakes you might have made that you're like, what if I know now I would never have done it again, so I hope somebody learns from this to not ever do. Or just mistakes you've seen other people make. If you're like and you're like, yeah, don't do this.
I will leave with you, Jorge, first, okay?
Well,
Of course
I
you
will,
do.
I will say, don't stay where they don't see the value that you can bring the company in a toxic environment. And things have evolved from many years back. But I remember being in distributing, working with certain companies, and their environment was very hard, very tough. So I've seen people treat this as a job, not a career, and they're not happy with their choice, and they continue to be in that position, and that's the worst thing that you can do. If it's not the right fit for you, leave, find the right fit. And that's one of the main things that I see in this industry. This is the spirits industry. This is supposed to be fun. If you're miserable, what are you doing? Do something else.
Trips to the distillery tasting experience.
Yeah, it's Mama Magali from Mexico. She's one of the greatest ambassadors, I have to say.
Hi,
And
Magali.
she's the proof that you can be creative, you can work for small brands, and you can get them there. We worked in Bacardi together. She used to be the ambassador for many years. So she done both sides. She knows exactly what difference is. One is not better than another. They're all different. Be creative and bring value to the bar. But to your question, definitely one of the main mistakes you need to learn when you need to keep quiet.
Yes.
Sometimes we talk too much, mainly when you had 1 drink or 2. So definitely learn that if you cannot keep it quiet after 2 drinks, leave, or just have 1 drink and leave. So it happened to me a few times that I stay a little bit longer in the bar, and you have 1 drink and 2 and 3, you're starting to chit chat, and maybe you sharing too much, you talk too much. Somebody can get offended. Somebody can take it personally. Somebody can take it good or wrong. So so I started to give a rule to myself, which is also my second point, a mistake not to do. Remember that the brand ambassador, he has a time frame for you. It's not a job that you can do for all your life. It's a very demanding job. It's a very lonely role. You're traveling a lot. You're on the street a lot. You're on a plane all the times. You out there all the times. You eat when you're not hungry, and you drink when you're not thirsty, because that's your job. So you need to give you a time frame that you're gonna start. At some point, you need to finish. You need to move on. It doesn't mean you need to change industry. You need to change your role. You just need to go and do some other stuff.
Yeah.
So those are the 2 mistakes. Learn when you keep it quiet, and learn when you need to go.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'll share my own. I definitely know. I like to learn to be quiet. Or also, probably the mistake I have made in my lifetime is, you two have probably suffered from it. It's sometimes it's talking too much about yourself, blah, just throwing. If somebody asks how you're doing, and it's you're talking and you're just verbally dumping on them because you might be nervous, or you're trying to impress somebody, or oh, these are all the cool. I've hopefully learned in my old age is to ask more about what other people are up to, what's going on in their life. How are they doing? What's going on in their career? What are they doing? Making. It's not that you can't share, but it's find out, connect with people more, and don't. We're always going to be in rooms. Great when parties come back. There's always amazing people. In the room. Connect with the people you're sitting with. Have that conversation. Don't constantly look to see if there's somebody better to talk with. get to know the person you are with at that moment, or else they're the most boring person in the world, then maybe you can move on. But other than that, like, really spend that time to get to know somebody, especially in that room, because you will see those other people later on, so really have a meaningful conversation if you can, because so many of our conversations just like ching ching, so yeah, great, and we're running. And one of the things I've definitely loved about COVID is having conversations like this and getting to know people better. And it's something in the last couple of years at cocktail parties, I've tried to make a more effort to do, like to just be with the people who I'm with and really spend time with them. Because time is short and you never know when you're going to see that person again. So it really, spend that quality time with them, because it really means a lot. All right, gentlemen, so the last question. So for anybody who you think is looking to become a brand ambassador, what is one recommendation? If you give any recommendation, they're like, I think this is going to be the job for me, and they're taking the leap from being a bartender into the brand ambassador world, what would be your recommendation?
Over to you, Jorge.
I'll go then. The first thing is find your passion and treat it like a career, not just a job. This is a lifestyle, actually. It's not even a career. It's a lifestyle that you're choosing for yourself. And this lifestyle, has a lot of hardship. Like Giuseppe was saying, you're constantly on the road, traveling. Where do you live? I used to say in Gate A. It gets crazy. So it really takes a toll, with your family, even with your friends. I remember, going back to when I was in Dallas, every time that I came home, the first question my friends asked me is like, when are you leaving again? Like they knew I was going to leave in 2 days, something like that. So it really takes a toll into your personal life. So if I had to give them a unique thing to do is invest in yourself. Invest in yourself. Do not just, be compliant and say, I already attained this position, I'm comfortable. No, go out there, spend your money in trips to learn more about other categories. Take courses, you were telling me some about the academy that you're putting together. Invest in yourself. That's the only way that you're going to grow. And there's no better investment than investing in you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I completely agree for everything what Jorge just said. So from my side, I will just add, do not base your decision to become a brand ambassador on what you see on Facebook. Obviously not throughout the pandemic, but a lot of bartenders, they want to become brand ambassador because they see all their friends traveling the world and having this like a luxury 5-star hotels, business class lifestyle, like all the top of the top. Sure, that's what you see out there. Then take it offline, off the record, get to know those people and ask them exactly what a brand ambassador life is. However, don't get me wrong, it's a huge experience, and I will recommend everybody, based on my personal experience, to do it. Do it as a brand ambassador. It changed my life. It changed the way how I see my life. But also, you need to start this role, this job, already with in mind that throughout your experience, at some point, it's going to finish as a brand ambassador, and you need to move on.
Yeah.
Don't start without knowing where you go. And as Jorge said, and you think you're going to stay there forever. At some point, you need to cut it and move on. That will be my recommendation to them.
And I was going to say, my recommendation would definitely be like if, and you gentlemen are both family men, and I'm a mom as well, and a family, and I'm a great husband at home. But if you're going to have if you have a family, you need a good partner at home. If you have kids, like if you become a brand ambassador, it is very, very hard being a brand ambassador and a parent. Unless you have a good support system at home. So this is a conversation. If this is a decision you're going to make, it's one you should have with your partner, because you're going to need them a lot. And because your schedule's erratic and you're constantly on the road. And, I'm very grateful for a very good support team. As I'm on marriage number 2, because my first one probably suffered from a little bit from my career. So this is a life lesson I learned. That you do need to really, you need that support team. So because people come to me all the time, especially brand ambassadors who are becoming moms, And they asked me, like, how did you do it? And I was like, well, and I was like, it wasn't easy. Sometimes I say change careers because it might be easier. But if not, if you have a good partner and you have the conversation, you're like, this is what it's going to be like, and they're on board, then it could still be an amazing career to have. But yeah, I think it's definitely going to take a toll on your personal life. So be ready for that and make sure you have good partners in place. And to Magalis, am I pronouncing that correctly? Magalis. And I think you're correct. People love the brand, but most of the time, ambassadors are the connection between the bar and the brand. They definitely are. That is a big thing. But the one thing I have learned, they will still carry the brand even when you're not with the company anymore. If they love the brand, they eventually do love the brand. But it is you're right. They sometimes buy the brand just because of your connection with them. And that says a lot about you as a brand ambassador, which is impressive. So gentlemen, I think this was really amazing. I appreciate your time and all your great insights. I think our audience hopefully learned a lot. So for all of you who have tuned in, thank you so much for all your comments and your feedback. It definitely makes this a lot more fun and engaging for all of us that are here. And that's it. That is a wrap for episode 18. If anybody wants to see past episodes, they're on the YouTube channel, Celebrate the Brand Ambassador. Please hit subscribe and check them out there. All right, gentlemen, you ready to go? I'm going to say
thank you. And just thank you for Magali and Anthony and Dean, everybody that joined. Great to see you guys interact as well. And hopefully we'll see you in person soon.
And thank you to you, Aline, to be such a great inspiration and a good friend, most of all.
Thank you very
Absolutely.
much. Same back to you. All right, gentlemen. Thanks again. So hopefully see you soon, too, in person.
Take care. Ciao, ciao. Ciao, Jorge. Take care.